Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Yvonne here from My Halal Kitchen. And this morning I have a very special guest, Kari Ansari of Mercy USA for Aid and Development. Thank you so much for being here, Kari. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thanks for talking to us about this.
Yeah, there's some really important work that you're doing. And for those of you who have been on my page, you know that I've been posting a lot of information lately about Mercy USA and some of the work that they're doing. And we're encouraging everybody to learn more today about the work at Mercy so that you can possibly decide to donate to their wonderful causes. Let me first introduce what Mercy is about, and then we're going to ask Kari lots of questions, and she can dive in and tell us more about specifics of their projects. And you guys are welcome to ask questions here on the chat, and at the end or in between, we'll get those questions answered. So Mercy USA for Aid and Development is dedicated to alleviating human suffering and supporting individuals and their communities in their efforts to become more self-sufficient. Incorporated in the state of Michigan in 1988, Mercy USA's projects focus on improving health, nutrition, and access to safe water, as well as promoting economic and educational growth around the world. Mercy USA has been a trusted 4-star charity since 1988. So to donate, we have put up the button already, but I think there's some important nuggets there. Clean water, good food, food security, and a trusted charity. That is all really important stuff. So thank you again, Kari, for being here. Let's dive in. Tell us more about just the overall logistics, operating, things that you guys do to help so many people in need.
Okay, well, Mercy USA has been around working in international relief work for, since 1988. So I'd have to start doing my math again as to how many years that is.
40
it's a
years.
long time.
Yeah.
Longer than I've been with the organization, but it's a very well-established, very conscientious and thoughtful organization.
Yeah, I get that.
We're established or headquartered in Plymouth, Michigan, which is outside of Detroit. And we work all around the world. We have offices in Europe, the Middle East, in East Africa.
Wow.
Probably our largest projects right now that we're most concerned about, because they're essentially still emergency work projects, are in Syria and Somalia. We do other projects in lots of other places, but our largest projects are in those two countries at the moment. Things always shift and change, but right now, today, those are the places where we have a very big impact.
There's a long list. Do you mind if I read the countries that are on your website? Yeah, I was really impressed with this. Your projects are in Syria, Lebanon, Somalia, Bosnia, India, Albania, Indonesia, Kenya, the Gaza Strip, USA, Pakistan, and Yemen. That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we work in all of those places, some in, with a smaller footprint and some with a larger or more established footprint. It all depends. Some areas, it's very fluid in terms of what you can do. But I would say some of our most established projects are in the Middle East and East Africa, for sure. Right. And then, we've been in Indonesia, for example, for quite a long time, since the tsunami.
I was just going to ask. It sounds like that.
What happens is we'll something drastic and terrible, devastating like that happens, and then we ended up staying. And what we do now in Indonesia, besides seasonal food aid like iftars and fitra, and kurbani, but we also do a lot of agriculture and sustainable development work. Because
what does that mean? Agriculture?
That means after a disaster, a tsunami hits, there's a rush of the world to go and to respond to that crisis and disaster. But what happens over the years are, the crisis, relief dissipates, and what's left are people who were devastated long term. So let's say farmers. And then we just basically are working. We stay there. We've got an office there, and we work to help small farmers become more sustainable. So I
That's
know
wonderful.
the last project that we were working on there was with farmers and with a heifer project. So a farmer would get a heifer. They would raise that animal, and that animal would then give birth to a calf. They'd keep the calf, and then the heifer goes on to the next farmer, and they end up, helping each other in a
Helping each
community. So
other.
those kinds of
So,
things
so
we do a
once the
lot.
media, sorry, so once the media limelight has kind of
Yeah,
dissipated,
and
yeah,
donors, kind of lose interest because there's
right,
always something,
new,
sadly, there's always something else that
right,
people feel is more urgent. But
right.
I think that's one of the things that makes us, kind of special in that we work on that sustainable development beyond that. So in the Balkans, for example, after the war in Bosnia, we're still working there. And
Wow, and that was
we
many
are
years
working
ago.
with the second generation of essentially people who were affected by that war. So the children of those people who were slaughtered in Srebrenica, for example,
Mhm,
those are children are orphans. Maybe the wife was left, the
right,
father disappeared, that kind of thing. So
right,
those people are quite often, really disadvantaged. And
right.
so we work with the youth in Bosnia, for example. So we offer it's kind of an after school tutoring project where we have
Mhm.
English classes, computer skills classes,
Wow.
that kind of mentoring stuff. We do career development projects. And then we also have another big agricultural concern there as well. We work with an agricultural college. We have an education center. It's a giant greenhouse where we
Oh,
grow
nice.
seedlings.
Oh,
The students
nice.
are learning, from the college. They're using that as part of their curriculum, and then some of the part of the crops of those seedlings go to small sustenance farmers, and then other parts of other uh, portions of those seedlings go to um, disadvantaged folks who use them for their kitchen gardens outside of
Oh,
their
wonderful.
collective homes.
Oh,
So they're very needy, but
that
then they can
sounds
grow
very
tomatoes
nice.
and cucumbers and peppers and
It's
all
true
that all summer long.
self-sufficiency.
So
True self-sufficiency. I
yeah,
mean,
so
really
we're
getting people
basically
back on their feet.
that's the kind of small projects, but they're
Yeah.
very impactful to the people who we help.
It's
So
just
that's
on the
sustainable
ground.
development in a small way.
Yeah.
In Albania, we do
Yeah.
other things with farmers, small farmers, and provide them with agricultural technical help with
Mhm.
experts. We work with a mill who in turn gives flour to disadvantaged families. So we always
Wow.
everything has a circle, and we try to impact more than just one group. We're helping farmers and families and the whole thing.
So do these experts come from local,
Yeah.
resources?
And
Oh,
that's probably
wonderful.
another thing that I really like
Yeah.
about Mercy USA is most of our projects are implemented by people who live there. They're
Yeah.
local.
Rather than
So
outsiders always coming in
right.
and
So
because it
but
complicates
then they're
things.
more able to tell us what's needed as well. Our
Exactly.
field
They know
staff.
their people, they know their
Yeah,
land, they know their culture. It just
right.
makes so much
They
sense,
know
and
what's
they can be.
appropriate.
Yes, yes.
So, if, for example, in Syria, if we, wanted to do an iftar food basket, for example,
Mhm.
what might go into their food basket might not be at all appropriate or wanted by someone in Kenya or
Of course,
someone in
right?
Indonesia or the
Right, right.
Balkans. So everyone has their own culture and their own,
Mhm.
traditions. So because our teams are local to those areas, they know what's, best.
And I
And
love that.
they're also, I think it helps because um, the people who are receiving the help feel more comfortable as well.
Sure,
It's
sure,
from a
and
neighbor.
it's gonna be things that they'll actually use, things that are appropriate to
Yeah,
their
and it's from their own countrymen or their own neighbors,
right,
and it just
right.
feels better to them, I think,
It
what
sounds
they've told
it
us.
it sounds like you guys are doing something so intentional and so conscientious in the sense that, not just throwing projects together, they're really just localized and really focused on getting people to do to get back on their feet in very practical
Yeah, I mean,
ways.
as soon as you can. And a lot of times,
Yeah.
again, like in Syria, coming back to that, but it's such a disaster that just never
Yeah.
ends. And
Yeah.
we always have all these kinds of projects that we look towards, like agricultural inputs and
Mhm.
things to help these people get started again. But the security situation is so bad still, those
Mhm.
kinds of things are really difficult to start up. We
Yeah.
did do a youth athletic center there in northern Syria where they've got volleyball courts and oh gosh, soccer field and all kinds of stuff. And then the pandemic hit, so
Mm.
I don't know how much the kids have been able to use it yet. But those kind of things we try to work on too,
Well, that's
even
another
though
question.
despite the security issues.
That's you just brought up something I think we didn't even talk about in any of our conversations, but how has COVID impacted getting relief to some of these communities of people?
It's been a challenge. It's hard because when I talk to our field team, for example, um, they it's almost like not on the minds of people nearly as much, because when you're starving
You're
or
surviving.
when
You're
you
trying to
are
survive.
afraid for your life, there's airstrike baskets or medical aid or any of that to make sure that they are, protecting the people that they're helping. So they're always
Mhm.
wearing masks. They
Mhm.
talk to each family about, sanitation, hygiene, hand washing. We have small projects, for example, in I can't quite tell you the name of the center, the type of center, but it was essentially like a home for widowed moms and their children, like a
Mhm.
collective for them.
Mhm.
And so we've done projects in there where we talked to the children about how germs spread. So they did all
Oh,
kinds of really fun
that's great.
activities. They did one where they took, had a gloved hand, put talcum powder on that hand, and then one person shook hands with that person and they touched a doorknob, and then they went,
Oh, and they
and
could
then the
see.
children could see how, as it all went around the room, this child
Yeah.
who didn't even come close to that original person had talcum powder on their hands.
Yes. Yes. I
And
would
so,
say
and
even
at the same
adults
time,
can
then
learn from
moms were
it.
taught how to make simple cloth masks at the same time they
Mhm.
had an activity.
Mhm.
So we try
Great.
to do stuff like that.
That's
But it
great.
is really hard. In Somalia, we're really happy to announce that we've started vaccinating through the
Wow.
COVAX system in partnership with, the big partners.
Mhm.
But we are now vaccinating our frontline healthcare workers, and then now we're getting the word out into several different locations in the country to the most vulnerable. So
Do
we're
you think
now starting to vaccinate citizens there.
do you think
So
that
that's really
impacts
good.
does that
Yeah.
does that influence the citizens if the workers are all getting vaccinated? Does that kind of trickle
Yeah,
down and
there's
give them
there's a
confidence?
little bit of there. We're definitely doing education and
Mhm.
awareness training, and it's including a lot of different ways of getting the word out,
Mhm.
because there's always going to be hesitancy. What is
Sure.
this, and is it safe for me? So
Right.
yeah, our workers are getting vaccinated for sure, and then we are getting the most vulnerable
Mhm.
in to be vaccinated in several of our locations around Somalia. So I was really happy that happened
Great.
just the last couple of weeks. In
Great.
Syria, I don't think that in northern Syria, not yet is there anything
Got it.
available.
Yeah, that's a whole nother
Yeah,
topic.
and I'm not an expert on the status of that right now. I can't really speak to it.
So, you mentioned the iftar baskets, and I saw on your website a really nice summary of them. That for $100, one iftar basket can feed a family. Is that correct?
Yeah,
So
that's
it said 8 countries. So does that mean like you can pick the country you want it to go
yeah.
to, or how
If
does that
you
work?
if you go online to our website, mercyusa.org,
Mhm.
um,
Oh,
there's an urgent appeal is where you can find the iftar basket. You can look there, and it'll show you the countries.
mhm.
And when you donate, you can just put in the comments. You can designate the country that you would like that particular food basket to be,
Okay,
allocated to.
I'm going to post a link. I really love that because for most of us who are, sitting here in the US and many other countries, we look at recipes all day. We look at, what we're going to make, and we have all these choices, but we need to be reminded that people around the world don't have the choices, and these baskets can be literally relief for them to eat.
Right.
And what's in those baskets? What actually comes in? Do you know?
I mean, I don't have an exact list with me today, but I would say that they're different as per the area that they are
like we talked
being
about.
distributed. Yeah. So I know that some of the special, they're different than, let's say, for example, again, in Syria, we would typically be, on a normal month, a food basket will include a lot of things like enriched pasta, tomato sauce, anything that's shelf stable, bulgur wheat, flour, rice, so oil, cooking oil.
Sort of like a meal kit in a way. Something they could
the moms
together.
everyone's, cooking their own recipes and, making what they need. But then during Ramadan, they'll have things in there. They'll have a separate box essentially that will have tea and sugar and jam, I believe, this year. Every year it's a little bit different too, depending on what's available in the marketplace.
Sort of iftar.
But tea and sugar, please. They wish it was in there every month, but it's a
wow, it's not.
Commodity.
No.
So we're looking at the nutritional value of those baskets. But of course, Ramadan's, obviously we want those to be different and special. So we'll do that. In East Africa, it's, big bags of flour and rice and oil. And in Indonesia, they have all kinds of really interesting things that I've never seen. I kind of researched by looking through all the photos. I wasn't able to get through to our country.
I think that's great.
Yeah, like these
great.
really interesting fruit drinks and, stuff that I'm sure makes it really special for them.
Right. I like that. I like that it's intentional and it's really respecting the people's culture.
Well, you want them to feel happy. It shouldn't be a sad thing. So, we try to make sure there are things that are a treat, even if you're in really, tough circumstances.
Right. So and going back to donations, let's say, I just want to give a cash donation, $20, $100, $1,000, as much as possible. Tell us a little bit, where does that donation, that dollar amount actually go? If you're not giving something specific like those iftar baskets, but you just want to give money, where does that go?
Well, you can do the same thing where you can designate where you'd like that gift to go off of, we have a pull down menu that I'm pulling it up so I can kind of look at it. But there are, on the donate page, there's the countries you can designate that, or projects or types of things that you, education or whatever is your concern, safe water in East Africa. But the thing that's important to know is how much of that $100, let's say, goes to the work and how much goes to a whole lot of other things, right? We all in the United States are aware of, people feeling really disappointed to find out that a particular charity spent way more money than they imagined on fundraising, for example.
Right.
So
dinners and so on.
Well, I mean, I'm not pointing fingers at anyone. I'm thinking of some that were in, say, like on major media to say this, and it's none of our community. Am I pointing fingers?
It happens in any kind of nonprofit, let's say. If
maybe. I think
it can happen.
I think there's some tips and tricks not tricks, but some ways you can make sure that, whomever you're going to give to, I can give you some ideas of the way you can safeguard, make sure that that money is well
spent.
That. Mercy UN, but if we're talking about the organization I work for, we're extremely efficient. 1.3% of that $100 goes for management and general expenses, and 1.5% goes to fundraising. So over 97% of your dollar goes right into those projects that you designate. So, we're really careful. We try to be really, really thoughtful. And so if someone says, I've never heard of you, and maybe, that's our downfall in some regards. We're not too splashy of an organization. However, we really consider that donation an amana, and we're very careful with it.
I love that.
But there are lots of organizations with the same ethos. We're not that, there are other good ones too. And I would only say, when you want to decide where you're going to give your zakat, or you have a charitable donation you want to give, there are just a few things you can do to make sure that you're going to give it to an organization that is really careful, equally careful with the money as we are. And that would be, first of all, you make sure to have a website. I wouldn't donate to an organization that has a Facebook page, for example, only, because they're not being held accountable. They should be a 501c3 registered charity with the United States government. Okay,
yes.
You have to jump through quite a few hoops to get that designation.
Yes, you have to prove a lot of stuff.
You also have to file with the federal government all your financials. Then on their website, you should be able to look for their annual report, and you can see exactly how much money they spend, where, and how. And then you can go to Charity Navigator. That's the other really, gold standard place to find a good, reliable charity. Mercy USA is a 4-star charity there, and we've been one for many years running. But they evaluate charitable organizations very thoroughly. And so you can also trust that rating. We get a lot of donations. People go right to Charity Navigator. They find us there, and then they donate to us. It's always been a great boon for us.
So they're a neutral party. They have no
affiliation. They are absolutely neutral. They're a 501c3 as well. So they're not in it for anyone's benefit. So that's why I really suggest people just go check.
Yeah, that transparency is so important. It's crucial.
Because everywhere you look, people are asking you to help, and everyone wants to help. And it's not to say that any organization or any group that you see somewhere who wants you to help them isn't good. I'm not by any means saying that. But want to donate your money to an organization that has all their ducks in a row. And they're established enough to have some of those things I just mentioned. That will help you know that money is going to be well spent.
Exactly. And I love that. I think that's really important. I mean, especially in Ramadan, everybody gets flooded with appeals for this project and that project and organizations. And, everything hits our hearts. We want to help, but it's important to have that transparency and to know that you're working with people that you can trust, that are reliable and responsible. So I really appreciate that. And anybody who looks at Mercy's website, and I've posted a few links, you can really see that that everything is done very thoroughly. So when you and I talked about on the food topics, right? We talked a lot about ways in which food security is an issue, or food for mothers and babies is an issue. And that's one of the very important projects that you have going on. Can you tell us more about that? I know that we've talked extensively, and it was fascinating. I want everybody to hear what you told me.
We have a lot of experience in mother and child health, is what it is technically what we would call it in the business of humanitarian help.
Yes.
For example, in Somalia, we operate, I think around 100 mother and child health clinics. Wow. And many of them are birthing centers as well.
Just in Somalia?
Yeah, we have a lot of work in Somalia that we do.
Wow.
But what we're there for and why we're helping, obviously the situation there has been, one
very dire,
one problem after the other, in terms of unstable government. And now, climate change is impacting them greatly. They have 2 rains every year, and quite often the rains have failed or have been, just way under what they should be. And it's forced many millions of people into internally displaced persons camps throughout the country. So people who were doing quite well, they're mostly pastoral and farmers, but when you lose your herd, you lose all your wealth, you lose everything.
Their
So
wealth is
often
counted in
it
the
is,
animals, right?
it is there,
Mhm.
yeah, for a lot of families.
Mhm.
So, so we're really concerned with malnutrition there. Okay.
Mhm.
So, why that's important is because when for children under 5, from birth to 5, what does that mean? Why is it just 5 years old and younger? When children are not getting enough nutrition in those years, it stunts their growth, it stunts their
Forever.
development, and it creates problems for them that last their lifetime.
Right.
So we
Right.
have to try to do the best we can to help small kids, infants all the way up to 5, to have enough nutrition so that they're able to grow to their full potential and do well in school. Brain development, it's all tied into nutrition.
And a
So
mother's nutrition as well?
and the mother's nutrition too, and we treat
Mhm.
both. So when we look at a family, a mother, she might be pregnant and she might have a couple of small kids. We're going to treat her, check her, weight and her status, just right alongside the children.
And pregnant women are vulnerable anywhere in the world. So
Oh yeah,
I can't
absolutely.
imagine in those situations. I mean, we're
Right.
told here, you need to get supplements and things like that. But in their situation, it's
It can be
even hard.
really, really, really hard. So that's why
Mhm.
we have these mother and child health clinics. We do the
Mhm.
same work in northern Syria now too. It's come to that. Um,
Wow.
and so basically in Syria we have rapid response teams, they're called, and they um, I think in northern Syria there's about 3 to 4 million displaced people. So they're living in substandard housing, tents, lean-tos, any place they can find. I just saw an article in the New York Times today where people were setting up their households in ancient ruins because they were
Wow.
providing shelter from the wind and the
It's
elements.
cold. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Still
it's very
cold.
cold there in the winter. It's gotten
Yeah.
colder.
It's still
Last year,
considered cold.
there were quite a number of people, and a lot of children died from hypothermia and carbon monoxide poisoning because they put a an open flame to burn inside their tent
To
to
keep
stay warm,
warm.
and they
Wow.
don't succumb.
Wow. So
So that's
sad.
something we do actually in Syria, is we distribute cast iron vented stoves every winter.
Wow.
So it vents and we have an eco fuel that is made from olive oil waste. It's
Wow.
compressed into briquettes and it burns very hot, very warm, keeps the tent warm very efficiently, very low smoke compared to people who are having to burn tires, anything they could burn.
Yeah, and that is like chemical. They're just breathing in all those
Right.
fumes
So that
and
was the other thing that was really hurting children there.
yes.
So that's
Yes.
something that we do that on a very large scale as well.
Wow.
But
There's
going
so many
back,
details for
yeah, there
so
are.
many details.
It is, but so with the in Syria, that we see a lot of malnutrition now because it's just people have lost their livelihoods. The people that are left, I always feel as though they've been left behind. These folks that live in this, who are surviving in this area, up along the Turkish border, they've been pushed there. Many of these families have told us they've moved multiple times, packed up what they could and
Right.
had to run because there were airstrikes. They've
Mhm.
lost their family members to airstrikes. People have been killed and they're very traumatized.
Mhm.
So we have these rapid response teams who visit all these tents and they find the moms who are pregnant. They do health checks. They follow those mothers through, till they come back with the baby from their birth. They encourage breastfeeding, to be exclusively breastfeeding their baby um, for the first 6 months, and then to add a nutritional supplement, something appropriate
Mm-hmm.
after 6 months. But before that, they're really educated to just exclusively breastfeed, because it's efficient, it's free,
Yeah.
um, it's
Natural.
portable, and it's the best thing for the baby, right? So
Right.
we have to try to
Right.
make sure mom has what she needs nutritionally, and then she's able to nurse her child, her baby.
Right.
And then, so that we do a lot of that kind of counseling on top of identifying malnutrition in moms or babies or both.
Mm-hmm.
On top of the food baskets and everything else, this is the medical intervention part that we
Mm-hmm.
work on. So that's sadly, that's a concern that's growing as well, that we're addressing. Because again, we're going to lose an entire generation of children if they don't have good nutrition. They're going to grow up
Exactly.
without proper nutrition. They're not going to do well if they, when they get to school or how they get to school,
Right.
those
Right.
kinds of things. So,
It's
that's a
wonderful.
big focus of our work for sure.
It's wonderful that you're taking such care at that stage of their lives, and even with the moms, pregnant moms, because it all starts there. Actually,
Yeah,
it's just
it does.
it's intense. I mean, every day there needs to be constant good nutrition, and so
Right.
it's a
And these community health workers, they're women from who are Syrian and who come and sit down as neighbors and help these moms,
Mhm.
in a very vulnerable. They're in a very vulnerable,
Exactly.
state. They're in a lot of trouble, and life is
Mhm.
really tough. And so, to have someone come in with knowledge and expertise to give them advice and to make them feel they're not alone, I think has been. They've told us that it's very important to them.
It's very scary to be in their situation to begin with, but then to add, having children, it's hard to move when you're pregnant or when you have kids, or
Oh, and
if you
many
have
of
to.
them had to, pick up and leave in the middle of the night and just run, get on the back of a motorcycle and flee. It's not like, well, we decided to move to this village because it's better. No,
Right.
they
It's an
were
emergency.
fleeing,
Mhm.
and I read one story after another, week after week, of families where that's the narrative. We were happy on our small farm. We were doing well. My sons and helped, and the airstrikes came. I lost two sons and his children, and now we're caring. Lots of grandparents now who are caring for orphan children.
Mhm.
The stories are devastating. It's oftentimes hard, even from a distance, to
Yeah.
absorb them, but you have to, in order to help people understand that the need is still there. The media cameras may not be focused on it as much
Right.
now, or in Somalia, I don't know. Do people think
We
about it
we
anymore as
don't
much?
hear. I mean, I watch international news as much as possible, but I rarely hear about Somalia. And what I do know is that, one tragedy, one trauma is enough for a person, but it seems like they're getting generational traumas happening. Things are happening multiple times in one person's life. And so there's that impact as well. So there's
Yeah,
so much
climate
going on.
change is really impacting uh, folks in Somalia. It's a big problem. Um, in parts of the country in the Horn of Africa, all throughout there, they've had a tremendously devastating locust outbreak.
Wow,
Desert
what does that
locust. So
do?
on top,
On top of
top
everything else that's going on, there's okay,
of the
so
drought, on top of some parts are more secure now. The Somali people are working their hardest to establish their country back to where it was, and with a functioning government, and everyone wants that. I have no doubt. Um, but now climate change, yeah. So they've had this last year. They had a terrible plague of them. So
wow.
that it, and they, I have to quote off the top of my head, but I believe one swath of desert locust can take up like 170 metric tons, enough grain to feed like 1 million people was
They
just
just eat it
gone.
up.
Yeah, it's
They
gone.
just eat it up. Wow.
So then there were people who were really severely impacted, and then we had to, we've been working with helping them
So that's
again.
another thing that causes the sorry. So that's another thing that causes the famines.
Yeah, they're not in a famine now,
They're not in a
thankfully.
famine though.
But the severe
Yeah.
droughts have reoccurred so many times in the last 2 decades, way beyond what's normal. And yeah, drought devastates. We had a severe drought just a few years ago, and just devastated people's livelihoods, and nothing to feed the livestock, nothing to feed themselves. So they become stuck needing help, from
Right.
humanitarian organizations.
Literally looking around with no resources to work with, and that's really where
I mean, they're very
you know
strong, resilient people, and extremely. I've never seen a roll of film from any place in our field teams where people aren't still smiling, and
wow.
it's amazing to me. Somali people are just amazingly wonderful people, and resilient, just
They
very
probably,
tough.
I'm sure they appreciate anything that they're getting, from
Well, I think
any small thing.
we do a lot of we build a lot of wells in Somalia, and that's another sustainable development type thing, because once you bring clean water into a village, then you don't have girls having to spend half the day getting water. There's
Mm-hmm.
clean water, so babies aren't dying from cholera and diarrhea.
Laura, right. It's
Um,
the stuff we take for granted. We
yeah,
open the tap, wash our, fruits, vegetables, wash our dishes, life goes on, and we complain that we don't have time for
yeah,
this or
we'd be
that.
complaining if what they consider great, having a well inside, say within a 10-minute walk, where they have to fetch the water from a well, that's a great benefit to them, and we'd still probably be complaining. But that's what we do, is we've benefited hundreds of thousands of people over the years, with these wells, and that's a Sadaqah Jariyah project that people really like to
Yeah.
try to do
Clean
during
water.
Ramadan. So by all means, go back to our website for that, because you can sponsor a well yourself, or you can do it over so many months. You can pay for it, because they're quite expensive. I mean, it's not $100 like a food basket,
It's
right?
a project. It's a
Yeah, it's a
ticket.
project.
And where can we find that on the website? I'm going to post a
It should
link.
be on the front page as well.
Okay, let me find that. Safe access to clean water in Somalia. Let me
Yeah,
just
that gives you all the details on that
Yeah,
link.
wonderful.
So that's also a really great thing during Ramadan. You can also you can dedicate that well to someone who's passed on, or
Oh, really?
a lot of people, and we put up a sign. The people in the village know that well was built for so and so's mother, or
And
and
how
they'll
much?
all make a dua for that person.
Really?
Oh yeah, and then that well is benefiting people, well beyond that generation. So
How much is something like that? What
the
kind of?
well is $3,500 to build the well for a village, for a community. And it takes, from the time that you order it from us, so to speak, it probably takes a good 6 months for that because we go out and do assessments. We make sure that, the particular area that we're going to, that say they need a well, we make sure there is water there, and that the need is there. And then, yeah, we send photos back to the donor to say, here's your well. People in the village will come. The ladies will
Wow.
come and smile and
That
pour
is,
out some water. So, yeah, it's a really, I think people are, really gratified to do that particular project. We've had
I
people
love
who have
that.
gotten together with their friends and said, let's all together do this.
Mhm.
And they do like a group project
That's
to raise that
wonderful.
3,500. So there's
That's
lots of ways.
wonderful.
Yeah, and
I
you can spread it
absolutely
out
love
over
that.
the year too. You can can donate. You can divide those up into 12-month payments, or 3
So
payments.
you would know exactly where that well
Yeah,
is in the village. You would get, wow. So even
yeah.
if you wanted to visit it one day, you could
Well,
potentially,
yeah,
yeah,
if it was safe for you to go there. A
if it
lot of
was
places
safe.
still aren't. It's a tough
Yeah,
security issue.
sure. But it's like
Yeah,
sort of like
you
planting a
could.
tree. Like, sometimes
Yeah,
some organizations have that and then they say, well, it's over here in this
right.
area or this forest.
Yeah, it's
That's
still
really
gonna be
fascinating.
there. Sure.
I love that. I really, really love that. I didn't really know that you know, that it could be like in someone's name and that they would make dua for them. That's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
really beautiful. So, how do you deal with you see so much every day? The stories that you
Well,
tell, you can't put everything on your website, right? You can't possibly explain everything that's going on. But I mean, the
well,
amount of
it's
things
a challenge because the people who provide us the stories and the photos, they're working,
right, they're
doing the
there,
work. And
right.
so I'm sometimes the person who drives them crazy because I'll be saying, can you give me a story? I'd like to hear, can we
Mhm.
get some more pictures?
We need to show
And they're
people
like,
what's going on.
yeah, I'm here doing this work and you're worried about photos. But
Right.
they all know, they know very well and they understand it, that in order for us to tell those stories, they have to do some of that.
Yeah.
And the beneficiaries are also, sometimes that's tough because they don't, we never tell someone that, you need to do this story, or, you're not going to get your food basket or something. So it's tough for our workers to find people who are willing to have their story told.
Yeah. Well, pictures
Because,
tell 1,000 words, and the videos even more so. And it's
yeah,
just, I think we sometimes, not only do we get bombarded with various organizations that are looking, for donations, but I think sometimes we just, I know I personally, I can speak for myself. You're so busy throughout your day, just dealing with your own issues and your own problems and your own struggles. And you just don't think about the smallest thing, that like turning on the tap water, or we complain, oh, I have to go shopping for my iftar groceries, but at least you can do that. At
yeah,
least I think sometimes living in the quote unquote modern world, we don't realize that there's a part of the world that has suffered, many, many parts of the world that just don't have the basics. And unless you've traveled there recently or you know somebody, it's hard to make it like reality in your mind that that is someone's reality in the world today. It's kind of, when you're living a different life, it's just hard to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So I think your stories are so important.
yeah. I mean, it's easier for me because actually get to speak to people who are on the ground.
Right.
You have WhatsApp
Right.
and Skype, and I talk to them. I when
Mhm.
we were working in Aleppo, Syria, there was the siege on Aleppo. There was no food. There was nothing coming in or out. And the gal that I worked with every day, messaging back and forth, trying to, bring stories out. It was really hard to listen to her talk about the fact that we were the only organization left that we had stockpiled food baskets, knowing that no, we knew that those routes into the city were going to get blocked by the government forces. So we still had food baskets. We're the only people there, and people were starving. And to hear her, tell me what was happening on, at least once a week, if not more, it was really hard
And
because
that
I
was
knew I had met her in person, because
right.
years before she could come across the border into Turkey, and I had met her when I visited our office in Turkey, and she'd actually come to the US even. But of course, things have changed. So now the people who are in Syria cannot leave, and the people who are outside who are Syrian can't really get in. So it's a very tough situation.
Yeah, and so in that case, it was an issue of distribution, lack of distribution, right? It wasn't that the food wasn't there and available. It was that it was
Yeah,
blocked.
no, all the roads were blocked into the city. The government had closed in, and so then what happened is the people who were living in particular neighborhoods had to flee, on the famous green buses out to the countryside. And those are some of the people who are out in these camps. But more often now, I think the people that I hear from who are out there now were mostly small farmers and
Yeah.
brick masons and construction workers and people like this who earned a living. They had a small home in a small village somewhere in the northwestern part of the country, and government forces have just, pushed them farther and farther, where everyone is now just jammed up against this border area and living in really dire straits. And it's
Whereas
really just heartbreaking, because
before they were,
they're
I'm
just
sorry,
farmers.
before
You
they were self-sufficient, basically.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they're
They weren't
independent, they're taking
super
care of their
educated
stuff.
or professionals. They were just, what we would call blue collar workers and people who made a life and who were happy. They grew
Mhm.
much of their own food, or, they were able to support their
Independent.
family. That's
Right.
the narrative I read over and over from
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like something you hear about in almost all of these countries that has
yeah,
been where the people have been displaced. It's like they've been wiped off their land when they were just basically doing their thing.
right.
They had nothing to do with anything. That's another tragedy part. When you think about, can you imagine just being at home, working in your garden, and all of a sudden you're just forced out, and then the life that you knew, how you knew how to make a living, you
Yeah.
can't do that where you are.
It's really,
Okay.
that's really tragic. That's the other thing, common
The
thread that
trauma.
I hear is that we can't go back to our home. It's gone. It was bombed. There's nothing there now.
There's nothing worse than
They've
like
just
losing your home,
lost everything. Yeah.
losing your sense of belonging. I mean, there's so much wrapped up in what they need, just from like a psychological point of view and a emotional point of view. And
When you're still living in trauma, you can't even
yeah,
deal with that at that point. You're
right,
still just in
right,
survival mode.
right.
And
And
that's how we are essentially as an organization too. We're in survival mode in terms of the type of help that we're giving, because
mhm,
that's what's needed most. Just how
mhm,
can we help them survive?
yeah,
We can't really get too far ahead of that because the need to survive is so paramount. They're
right,
just, it's difficult to see how they're going to move on. I'm
right,
not a
right.
political animal. I don't know what all the answers are for this. And we don't, as an organization, don't delve into the politics of
That's
anything.
good.
We're just there to
To
provide the
help,
help to whomever needs it. So,
right. And that's the thing about trauma. I think when someone is traumatized from a certain situation, you know, they may just be thinking basics of food, but sometimes they're not even thinking that because they're so traumatized. You almost have to just give them what they need because they're just in a shock
yeah,
from what they've been through. So your work is so important to just like think for them at that moment,
yeah,
because a lot of times people can't. And then when it's sustaining, that problem is just not going away, people kind of,
it's
they don't
tough.
know what to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
We really need to pay more attention to these kinds of issues that are going on. And my heart feels very close to what you're doing and all the projects, because I love how conscious they are, how intentional they are, and how they're really trying to help people just kind of get back on their feet and do their thing and be, get their sense of dignity back, self-sufficiency as much as possible within the circumstances that they're in. So that seems very effective and wonderful. So we have a plan for the rest of the month, and one of the things we wanted everybody to do was to hopefully follow Mercy on Instagram. Can you give us that? What is your Instagram tag again?
Um,
I will find it.
it's I believe it's mercy.usa.
I'm gonna just
Somehow
put that.
someone took our
I have it. I
we
have it
weren't
here,
able
but
to grab it. Let me check. But you can just search Mercy USA. You should be able to find.
mercy.usa.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
going to put the link
mercy.usa.
here.
Forgive me
And what?
for not knowing better.
No. It's fine. I wanted to put the link, but we were talking.
Well, there's a lot of fun not fun, but there's a lot of good stories there. A
Yeah.
lot of nice information. We've been trying to populate that page now.
Yeah.
We have a wonderful young woman who's been, putting some good content up there now. And yeah, I think that you can get a lot of ideas of some of the stuff we're doing, in snapshots there for sure.
Yeah.
Our website is a lot more in depth. You can, and I think if you're interested in the work as it goes on and the different types of work and the different places that we will work in the future too. I mean, everything's changing. There's lots of places that I think we're going to be working, but I can't mention it because the ink isn't dry yet on some of the projects. But these things that I spoke about today were of major concern. I would want to mention also the other thing we're really focusing on this month is our a school that we've sponsored in Pakistan. We built with the Citizens Foundation. They do great work. They build schools all throughout Pakistan. They're very super. Again, they're like us in terms of you can count on the work, and they're really accountable. We built a secondary school there. In Sindh, so in a very underserved area. So now we have they've got science labs, they've got computer labs, they've got everything there, and it opened just as COVID hit. So the kids even had to work from home. So Citizen Foundation distributed workbooks and had a television link so kids could still stay up with their studies.
Great.
A lot of families, I just got some stories today of young girls who thought that they were going to have to stay out of school because of COVID had just hurt their father's livelihood. Okay. So if your dad was a driver and all of a sudden there's no work, then she couldn't go to school. So, but this school that we support provides scholarships so those girls could continue their education. We work really hard to make sure that we have a parity of gender in the school. So just as many girls are going to school there as boys, and that's very important in that part of the world.
Very nice.
So that's another project that we really wanted people to kind of focus on this particular month because it's a Sadaka Jariya project. It's a continuing, you educate young people. That's a benefit that blesses you for generations. So that was another thought
Someone is asking us in the chat if there are any projects in Iran.
No, not at this time.
Yeah, I didn't see any on your list. Yeah, there's lots of comments. People are really interested in what we've talked about, and inshallah, they will learn more by following you on Instagram, mercy.usa. And please make sure that you do that because in the last 10 days of Ramadan, we're going to have a gift box giveaway with some swag from Mercy USA. And one of those things will be a really cool thermos, stainless steel for your hot tea, and a box of Shatila pastries.
That's from our headquarters, hometown area.
If
Those are the best.
Yes, these are the best sweets ever.
Our staffer had to wait in line for 3 hours last week.
It's a very precious box.
Yeah, they weren't taking any more online orders. You had to go in.
Wow.
He said people come in from all over, out of state even.
Yeah.
They are world famous.
They are world famous. It's an awesome place. And some eco-friendly bags, shopping bags, and T-shirts. And I'm also going to throw in one copy each of my books, My Halal Kitchen and Summer Ramadan Cooking. So in the last 10 days of Ramadan, be sure to watch the My Halal Kitchen Instagram page and follow mercy.usa on their Instagram page. And from there, we'll do a
newsletter sign up. So
we'll have a newsletter sign up. So you guys can follow them on Instagram and sign up on the page that we'll share that in a few days. And that's pretty much what we'll be doing for the rest of the month. We're going to be sharing more and more of the stories, the projects that you guys have got going on. And I encourage anybody watching, if you have any questions, you can leave those comments here on our page, or you can email Mercy directly, right? Like maybe through Instagram or.
Yeah, you can message us through Instagram. We always answer.
Mhm.
I think that's probably a good way. Could do info at Mercy USA, but I think Instagram probably get your quick questions answered a little bit
Everybody,
faster.
everybody does.
Yeah,
And most importantly, if you feel so inclined to donate, please do
yeah,
so at the button I'm going to post right now. And as Kari mentioned, you can pick your projects. You can do iftar baskets. You can do sponsor a well. I really love that one a lot. Get together with your friends. Do something together. That's a
yeah,
great idea. That's a really great idea. But if you can only just, afford $10, $20, like anything helps. So please take advantage of that opportunity, especially in Ramadan, to be generous and think of others and what they're going through, and appreciate anything that you can do.
yeah.
So
I'm amazed every year at the generosity of our supporters. It's just amazing. It's
wonderful.
amazing the Muslim community, how they come through,
We're a
and
very charitable
we're just
community.
so grateful because we really do know the people that it's impacting, and
Right.
it makes you feel so good to do anything to help that
Yeah.
along. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
I agree. I agree. Thank you so much
Well,
for
thank
taking the
you for
time.
taking the time for us.
No, this
Really
is
appreciate it.
I learned more today, even though you and I have talked for a couple hours on the phone about it. And I learned so much when we talked, but I learned more and more today. So the more that you dive in and read on the website about the projects and do a little research and watch some of the videos, then you'll learn more too. So I'm going to leave everybody with the video that we played in the beginning. It's very
Oh,
short, but it's very sweet.
okay.
And I really would like to share that one more time. So any last things to say, Kari, before we go?
No, just give from your heart.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
That will always, Allah will bless you, and
Yes.
Ramadan Mubarak to everyone.
Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you again, Kari. Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.